Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a top which is really simple, so it's a great one for beginners. There's not going to be any zip and there's minimal hemming. There's no hemming at all. First things first, always iron your fabric before you start, especially if you have any embellishment. It's easy to iron it this way, and if you make it in one go and it doesn't get left and folded, you might actually get away with not having to iron it once it's made. Look over your fabric and just check if there's anything that's not quite right, not straight, how it frays and stuff like that. So you can see here my fabric is fraying quite a bit. I would cut my outfit as I need it, and before I do anything else, I'll put a zigzag hem on there. What I also notice about my fabric is the embroidery is not to the edge. So watch out for that, especially if it's going to come out near your shoulder or something like that. It's going to look like, you didn't have enough fabric. What I'm going to do is put the cream part at the bottom where I'm going to tuck it in so that it's not visible, yet I use the length of the fabric because that will help me save some fabric. So I've got a meter of fabric. Probably only really need about half, and I've got my lining. Again, I've got more than enough, just so I happen to have it lying around. You're going to need some thread, but in this case today, because there's no actual hemming, the thread doesn't have to be perfect colour. I'm going for a brownish thread, so on the beige it actually shows up, but on the gold you won't see that, and that's the most important thing because that's what's going to show. So get your scissors and your tape measure, let's go. Make sure that you have more than enough fabric going across and down. So this is 21 across, which is more than enough for me, and I only need it 20 long, and that's including part of the cream fabric. So again, that's enough for me, and I've actually got this much left over, so that if I needed to make say a tighter blouse to go with the same outfit, I could do that. Let's fold our fabric. Really take your time to make sure this is all even. It's a good idea just to drop it low and then place it back on your table. Don't forget to watch the video on how to measure yourself and know how much fabric you need to use and where you need to put your measurements in. So to begin with, I know I need this 25 inches long, and that's including my seam allowance. So I'm going to put in one cut here, and one cut here. You can see this is going to be a right messy one. Just shake off as much that comes off at the beginning, it will help. And vacuum that up as you go along. If your fabric is fraying like mine, don't be tempted just to cut down it, because you're going to keep reducing the amount of material you have. So just snip where these threads are loose, because chances are this is still going to fray a little bit more until you can put in your zigzags, but at least you're not cutting away your fabric. Take your fabric and fold it over so that you have 4 layers. What we want to do, because it's going to have a baggy style, your armhole is going to be slightly different to normal. We're not going to cut it in as much because we want the fabric kind of going over your shoulder. So then we have to cut less of the shape here of your armhole. So the best thing to do to get this measurement correct is just put the tape where you would like your fabric to end, just so that it's slightly over. And so for this outfit, that's going to be 14 inches. Then just using some pins, marking where that is. If I want that ready at 14, I'm going to give myself a seam allowance of 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm going to make that 7.5. By pinning it in, you're keeping all 4 layers together, which makes it easier when you're cutting. The length of your armhole is going to be the same, so whatever you would normally do. I'm going to cut mine at 8 because when you sew it in, it's going to get bigger. And just at the top, just check where you want that to sit on your shoulders. So for this outfit, that's 15. I'm going to add on the seam allowance of 1 inch, so that's 16. So I'm going to put this pin in at 8. Normally your armhole would be bigger at the back than at the front, but because of this style and the bagginess of it, I'm going to keep them equal. You can literally now follow your pins and get in your arm shape. Give yourself a little guidance. So I'm going to just draw something in. I know I want it this long, so I'm just going to mark this here, and I know I want to start here and come in to about here. And then when it comes to the shape of it, if you're using your wrist in the same position as mine, it's easy then to get a nice curve like this. So that's what you're looking for. What you could do is draw a square of where these lines meet. Can you see that square? And really all you're going to do is round this off like that. So it's just your natural rotation and you can just cut along that line. I'm just going to take out that first pin and use your scissors to get that curve as you're cutting. And when you get to almost the edge where you can see that, just start to cut diagonally towards your second pin. And then you want to come out again. I'm going to remove this one and I'm going to aim here. Next, you want to cut the neckline. So the way this neckline is going to work, I want it kind of a cowl neck at the front. So it's just going to hang. I'm not actually going to cut it. I'm going to leave it straight across. Just open it out without cutting the side. And I want to then fold this again. Just make sure that the armholes meet. Shake it out, drop it down and lay it again. So I'm just going to give this a little curvage here. I'll cut on 8.5. My marking will be here. And it's not going to go down too low at the back. I'm just going to keep it at 1.5 inches. Again, if you wanted to draw this in, it would look something like this. Just really nice and long. Dart. Really slopey. So hopefully this shall give it that slash neck effect, but then when I join the lining onto this, I can make that even more defined. So what I want to do next is join this fabric to my lining. Next, what we want to do is just lay flat everything we've done. So this is one of my armholes and that's the other, and that's where it folds. Here's the back neck here, and the front we're going to leave flat. And what we want to do is just cover that with our lining, because it's slightly see-through, you can see what we're doing. And we would just want to cut the right amount of lining. There's no harm in having a little bit extra lining around your edge if you're not sure, but whatever you do, don't have less, because that will cause issues. Really pat it out, make sure it's nice and covered, and then just cut around your fabrics. You can cut this quite roughly. This can always be tidied up after. And for now, I'm not going to cut around the armhole or neckline. I'm going to keep it straight, because when we sew our fabric onto the lining, it'll be easier if the lining isn't cut. Take away the extra. So let's pin this together, and then we can sew around, just keeping the lining and the fabric together. Just pin the whole thing. You can use as many pins as you want, and if anything, more the better, especially around each cut. So I'm going to put in 3 or 4 around each curve. Once you've pinned together your lining and your fabric, take it over to the sewing machine and just sew around the complete outfit, all around the neckline and the armhole, so that we keep in our edges and no more can fray. Because I've decided it's best not to do a zigzag on this, just in case the zigzag actually pulls some more sequins away and there's more fraying. So I'm going to allow a good centimetre inside there so that we don't have that issue. First thing to do is test your fabric, especially because this is special fabric and I don't want to make a mistake. Check your seam and make sure you have your tension correct before you start. Okay, that needs to be tighter. Yes, I'm happy with that. It's just over 2, so the tension's nice now. So you can turn it over so you can actually see the sequin side, or if you prefer, just keep the lining side because it's see-through anyway. I'm just keeping it so that the pins are on top, and if I need to, I can remove them as I go. And if you like, you could actually do a zigzag between the 2 fabrics now. That would be quite a good idea, because you're going to use this seam to join the fabrics, and then after that we're going to actually put our seams in. So I've added a zigzag all the way around my outfit here, and I'm just going to remove all of the extra pins, cut around our zigzag and take away the excess lining that we don't need. Now the thing about doing it this way with the zigzag means that the lining and the actual fabric are the same width, which means that the lining can poke out. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to cheat in this case because I wanted to keep the pieces together. I'm going to make them equal, and then I'm going to put darts on the inside to stop the lining coming out. So now that we've cut away our fabric, we can see the shape a little bit more. And what we want to do next is put in pins where you want to put in your actual final seams. So take your measurement and pin in where you want your actual seam. So this is actually the back of my outfit, and I cut this at 16 inches and I wanted to have this ready at 14. So I'm just going to pin in 1 inch away. And you can double check that you've done this evenly afterward. You do want to keep the back slightly smaller than the front so that the cowl neck kind of hangs just a little. And take that right to the top so that it's straight up. So put in the pins again. So we've got a nice shape already for the armhole. Now if we do the same on the front, but on the front I'm only going to take it in by 1/2 inch on both sides. Just continue all the way around the armhole so that you've got your final seam indication with your pin. You want to do that on both sides. Right, so that's a lot of pinning there, but it's well worth it because when you have a nice guide, you know exactly where to sew and your outfit is more likely to come out as you wanted it. The shoulder seam must match on both sides. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put these together as if we're about to sew them. Just match up the shoulders. Just make sure, pat it out, make sure there's nothing in the way. And what we want is these pins to be together. Now, I think you can see here that that one is slightly higher than that one, so just match these up. I've just shown the marking where I want to sew in the armholes. The neckline I'm just going to keep quite close to the zigzags. I'm starting with the back neck and I'm just going to very carefully remove the first pin. I'm going to have to put my glasses on for this. I'm going to remove the first pin and put in my seam exactly where that pinhole is. So I've got a good guide. And always hold your fabric so that it's not actually putting any pressure on your seam. And then just start with a double seam. And then very carefully, very slowly, just bring that round so that you've got that curve nicely. And as you go, just take out the pins that you don't need anymore. Just fix your eyes on exactly where you took it out of. So just aim to the next pin and slowly feed through your fabric. And in the same way, just continue all the way round. So I've put in my seam as carefully as I could to get this shape really nice because it's actually going to be the edge of our outfit. So the best thing to do now is just put in some nips so that wherever our outfit curves a lot, like for example here, here, in all these places of the armhole, we're going to need little nicks. They don't have to be really big at this point if you're nervous about whether you've got this right or not, but just one or two to make sure when you turn it the right way, it's not going to be really kind of messy and difficult to see what you've done. I'm just going to cut away some here at the edge as well, and I'll do this zigzag edge again here, otherwise the corners won't come out well. We won't know how neat they are. So same over here, just so that we can get this corner out. Let's turn this the right way around and see how well we've done here. Right, okay, so snazzy. What we're going to do, we're going to put the back and the front corners together, give us an idea of what the outfit's going to look like when it's ready. We've got the armhole here and we've got the back of the neck, and this is the front. So if I just quickly hold these up like that, I'm hoping this is causing a little bit of a cowl, which it is. And you know, the nice thing is what's happened is the lining is actually staying on the inside. maybe not the back as well as the front, but the front you can't see any of the lining, so maybe I'll only need to put in a little dart maybe in the back. So what you want to do is just push it towards each other so that the edges are gold and not cream, and then you're just going to have to put in a little seam going downwards, and that will keep the lining in. So that's our little cheat there. And again, for the top of the neck as well, if you get the same sort of thing, you can put in like a T, so one going this way and one going that way. Just looks like naturally on the front. That hasn't happened, so that would be great. We won't really know until we put in our final seam, so we can do that now. You want to get the corners of the front shoulder, you want to sew them to the back. In fact, what you might want to do, you might want to iron this down just one time so that that's all nice and neat and you can see that it's staying on the inside. And then once you've got that neat, you can turn the right side to face each other, sew the shoulders together and the open side. When you're ironing this down, it's a good idea just to keep patting it, rolling the material out so we've got the material right to the edge. And if you need to, you can iron in between these so that it stays right to the edge. But I'm going to start just by ironing it from the top first. Now the most important thing here is that we want to hold it from the top and iron downwards, not the other way, because we want to make sure the neck is neat before we do anything else. So take this right to the edge, really pull that through, and then just lightly iron on it like this. And you can see then that the gold is showing, and then the lining shouldn't pop out near the neck. Just do this all the way around the armholes and the neck. Now when we turn this over, if there's any sign of the cream lining, we know we need to address it. But that is looking pretty good. So again, just bring these together. We don't want to make the outfit smaller than it is, just the right amount. But this little one there will do the job. So put in these darts and then join the shoulders. So I want to show you how I'm going to put in this dart. I'm just going to really gradually come closer to the pin, making it this wide, which is how much I want it, and then gradually bring it up. I've just poked out the corners here of the back neck and pinned together my outfit at the shoulders, making sure that the shoulders are absolutely level on both sides. And I've also pinned down the side all the way down, so we're just going to make one clean seam down here. Carefully hold these edges, take the pin out now if it's easier, and want to make sure that the lining stays to the inside, so just roll it in a little, making sure everything's level. Bring that under your foot really carefully. Sew this right to the edge of the back neck. And we are going to slope this upwards slightly so we get that shoulder shape. And that's where it finishes there. So I'm not going to close it off just yet. Going to do the same to the other shoulder and sew down to the edge. And with the armhole, exactly the same thing again, turning the lining inwards on both sides, matching up the edges. And remember, we're going to tuck this in, so this doesn't need to be hemmed or anything. I'm not even going to sew those together. I'm just going to leave them open. Just going to bring the seam right to the edge. So let's see how we did. We just got to turn this the right way around. And that's all looking quite neat. Now I won't know until I try this on my sister because it's for her. It does look a little bit lopsided where I wanted to keep no seam on the left side, so I will probably have to put a seam on that side, but I just want to try it on her first. Many hours later, my sister tried the top on. It fit her really nice and neatly around the neck and the armhole, but this side is big, so I'm going to take this in now, and the rest of it is good to go. So the last thing I need to do, and this outfit is complete. I've made this seam slightly slanty because I do want it to be baggy, like puffing out at the waist. Always make sure everything is level. And with that, see how well we did. So here goes. We have our completed top, and it's looking quite nice. If I hold this up, you can see that it's cowling a little bit, just the right amount. So all that I need to do now is ask my sister to try this on because it's for her, and once I know if it fits well, we'll know if we've finished or not, so watch this space.